Hi everyone, happy Tuesday. I'm just going to adjust this camera a little bit. There we go. Hope you're ready to make some fun quilt cards. We're going to work on this one first, so you can get out your envelope. It's one of the ones with the dark blue, the sapphire cardstock, and it's the one with the 12 different pieces, and it's got this strip in it as well. I'm just going to hold on for a minute. To wait and see if anybody else gets on, and then we'll get started. Not sure what everybody's schedule is tonight, so I don't know who's going to be live and who's going to catch the rerun. Just a quick reminder, if you get a chance to hit the thumbs up on the video, I would appreciate it. Okay. Oh, and you should have, hopefully you'll have your sparkles in this envelope too. I put all the sparkles for all the cards in one envelope. Okay. This paper collection is called Celebrating You. Unfortunately, they have sold out of it. Close to My Heart has sold out of it, but I do have a couple of paper packs if anybody's interested in them. I love the colors in them, and they have a lot of nice prints, which is good for these quilt cards, and I had a lot of fun making them. I am just looking for my scoreboard, which got buried in my tool bag here. It just got buried behind another tool. All right, so all of these cards that we're working on tonight, the finished size of them is 5 by 7. However, we're creating that with a couple different cutting and folding variations. So this one, the cardstock is 10 by 7. So we are going to just fold it in half. So on the 10-inch side, we're going to score at 5 inches. And we've got the darker side facing us in the scoreboard. So score at 5. And fold and burnish. Of course, you don't have to use a scoring board if you don't want to. Okay, so as you can see, each of these pieces, which are 1.5 by 1.5, we are going to round the corners of two corners of each square, and we're going to round the opposite corners. Now, there are a variety of different kinds of corner rounders out there on the market. So you may have a different one than I have, but I've got this one right here, which is kind of, this was the classic one from years and years ago. And they just it gets put in here and you push the button to punch out the corner. This is the one I currently like to use. This is a We Are Memory Keepers Crocodile Corner Chomper. Michael's has these, or at least they used to, possibly Joann's, I'm not sure. But the nice thing about this one is it actually has 2 different size corners on them. So it does a 1/2 inch punch and it does a a 1/4 inch side and a 1/2 inch side. So and be careful because they changed them, and if you go looking in the store, they may have changed the color of the handles. They have a whole line of these of different designs. So you have to look on the packaging and it'll tell you the sizing. There's also another one that does like 3/8. I don't know if it's 3/8 and 5/8 or 1/8 and 3/8. I don't have that one, so I'm not sure. But so just be careful when you're looking at them in the store. And I use the 1/2 inch side on mine, but it really doesn't matter whatever corner rounder you have with whatever size corner it makes, rounded corner it makes, that's fine. The one thing I did do, however, is because some of these papers are directional. So like you want the balloons to be straight up and down, and you want the text, even though you can't really read much of the text, you want that to be right side up. So what I did was I spread out my squares first so I would know which corners to punch instead of just randomly punching 2 corners on each, and then maybe it wasn't in the position I wanted it to be. And as you know, all our Close to My Hair papers are double-sided. So be careful. And there were 12 different paper designs in this collection. So this worked out perfectly for this card because I used 12 squares. So one of each. Of course, you're welcome to do something different if you'd like. I did put them in order for you in your envelope. Whether they stayed that way is another question. So I am just laying them out. Whoops. In the order I want them. And then this one I have the stripes vertically. And then I'll know which, I'm going to follow my sample card here to know which corners I want to punch. Now, this corner rounder, you can put in several pieces of paper at once, but I want to make sure I get a nice clean cut, and I don't know if you have one that does multiples at once, so I'm just going to do one at a time and keep it a little slow, so hopefully maybe I don't rush ahead of you and we can work together. So on this first one, you can see it's the bottom left and the top right. So the way this one works, if you've never used this one before, when you buy it, those like fins are closed. So you open them up, and that gives you the angle to put the paper in on. And you have it resting on the two sides. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but if you own it and you're looking at it in person, you can definitely see it. Maybe there. You can see that round. That's where it's going to chomp and create that corner. So you can see that's the larger one. If I turn it around, I don't know. Can you see that difference? That's a smaller curve there. That's the 1/4 inch side. So I want the 1/2 inch side. Maybe on the newer one, they actually marked. Is it marked up here? No, but maybe they actually marked them on the newer one. But so I'm going to put them in there, rest my sides against the fins, and squeeze. Now, unlike another, if I use this corner rounder, it would just fall, the corner would just fall out the bottom. This has a well in here. And after you've done a lot of punching, you open up this cover and you empty it out. Now I emptied mine out last time I used it, so I only have that 1/4 corner. But that's how you clean it out. And if you start trying to chomp and it's really hard to press, it's probably because you haven't cleaned it out in a while, you've forgotten, and there's a lot of little scraps in there that you need to clean out. So I'm going to do the opposite corner, the corner I just punched. And so I've got the bottom left and the top right. So, hi, Mom. We are just working on this first card. That's the sapphire cardstock and the 12 squares with the corners. And what I suggested doing is laying out the squares in the order you want them so that they are right side up, the ones that are directional. And so we can punch the correct corners to create this kind of pattern. You could see like this is kind of a little bit of a flower there. And then like if you look this one, it looks like a rounded square. So I alternated them so to get that secondary pattern. So in this one, I'm going to punch the bottom right and the top left. And we're just going to keep going like that. We're going to follow the pattern on this card here. Till we punch all our corners. But it's always the two opposite corners. And you see, you kind of get that, I don't know what you call that shape, but it's a square with two rounded corners, right? But it makes that nice design by chomping the two opposite corners. Now this little design with the presents looks like it's directional, but it's really not because all the things on it are going different directions. So it doesn't have a right way up like this one with the text. And on these here, you can't see the bottom, and on this one, you can't see the top. But you'll know which corners to punch because you could see the top corners, and then you just punch the opposite, the diagonal corner from it. Actually, I guess since it's being covered up, technically you don't have to punch the ones that are underneath here if you want to save some time. But I'm going to just do it because like when you're designing them, you may decide to move them around. Okay, so now I'm going to open up my little cover and I'm going to shake out the extra. It's good practice to clean it out after you're done using it, and then you won't ever have that problem of having it full of little pieces. So you see that was all the corners it caught. Okay, so now I am going to go through and I am going to put adhesive on the back of all these pieces all at once. And then once I have the adhesive down, I will stick them down on the card. It'll go a lot faster that way. So if I can pick them up. All right, so I'm just outlining them with my double-sided adhesive. And then when I'm going to put them back in. Just having trouble with my adhesive here. Okay. That's better. When I put them back here, I'm not going to necessarily worry so much about what direction the corners are in. I'm going to put them back so the adhesive side is up, and I'm going to put them back in the right spot, but I'll worry about lining up the corners when I attach it to the card. Oh. Once you turn them over and see the other design on the back, you'll get confused as to which piece is which is why it's nice to put them back in order. And that way, when you're sticking them to the card, you just have to pick them up one by one and not figure out which piece you need where. And remember, you have the instructions I sent you with the class with pictures of each of the cards if you need a closer up view, or you want to work more on these without watching the video again. Okay, so now I have adhesive on all 12. And the spacing on these pieces is going to be our standard 1/8 inch spacing. And so we are going to put the first piece on first, top left corner, and we're going to leave about 1/8 of an inch at the top and to the left of the piece. Now, I did not press all the way down, and the reason I did that is because if you're not good at eyeballing your space, we can kind of put the 3 pieces down across and really make sure we have it spaced well. And if we don't press down, a piece of hair stuck in my adhesive, if we don't press all the way down, then we can pick that up and adjust it if we need to. So again, I'm going to put the next piece down, and I did not get the corner of this very well, so I'm just going to fix that. Okay, and this is the balloons, and I just lost grip of it. And again, I'm going to leave about 1/8 inch spacing between it and the previous piece and at the top. And so both pieces should be lined up across the top. And then our third piece, which is this teal color, which is Lagoon, again, I'm going to place it, line up the top. I'm going to have an 1/8 inch space between the two pieces, and then I should have an 1/8 inch space on the right, to the right edge of the card, and I do. So I can go ahead and put that down. Now, if you're not feeling confident working your way down either, before you burnish those in, you can carefully adjust the space going down too. However, I'm going to tell you, you don't have to be quite as worried because see, we have this piece here. So if you're getting to the bottom and the bottom has a little too much or not quite enough space, we can adjust it and it's going to be covered up, so it doesn't matter. So we are going to keep putting our pieces on, leaving that 1/8 inch of space, and we are going to line up our corners and our rounded edges. So we're going to put rounded edge next to rounded edge and corner next to corner. So here we have our first little flower where the 4 corners meet in the middle. And whoops. To the right, we're going to have our first little rounded square with the kind of diamond in the middle. And that's half of the pieces already. Now you can keep checking back to the sample card to make sure you're putting the right piece down, although, you know, there is not technically a right piece. You can change them around. But again, you are just matching corner to corner. Rounded corner to rounded corner. Point to point, rounded corner to rounded corner. That's what I meant to say. Okay, so now we're down to our last row here, and did I leave that much spacing on purpose? You see, this is what happens when I don't. Oh, haha. Sorry, this card, I did cut it a little big so we could adjust that spacing. It's not quite a 5x7 card, but I cut it 5x7 so then we can trim it up at the end. Sorry, I totally forgot I did that. It's one of those things I have to make notes about because weeks go by between I make the samples and then we have the class, and then I forget little things like that. So we're going to just go ahead and keep using our 1/8 inch spacing as we did, and then we're going to trim the card at the end. So there you go. If you make your cardstock bigger than you need, you have that flexibility to trim it and then make it perfect. So there you go. So now you can take your paper cutter and go ahead and put it in the paper cutter, and you want to leave a 1/8 inch border past your last row of squares. I'm not going to reach around to my paper cutter because you can't see me. So I am just measuring with my ruler, and I'm going to cut with my rotary cutter so you can actually see me do that. So you can see I cut that bottom 1/8 of an inch below my squares. So my card is about 6.5 inches tall. Now my sample is actually a little bit taller, so I may have changed up my spacing a bit. Which is why I gave you a longer cardstock than necessary, so you can make it look absolutely perfect. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this stamp strip on, and I stamped these strips for you all. This is the stamps that I used. Bunch of thanks. It's an older set. It's retired, but I do have one available, a new one for $14 if anybody was interested. It's a fun set because it's got the bases and the leaves and these kind of bursts that kind of look like fireworks, but you can make them look like flowers, which is what I did. I did both things on the card, and I've used this for a lot. You can get a lot of use out of that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to attach the stamped panel to the solid panel Glacier, and we're going to attach it to the lighter side. And it's a light color, so there's not a ton of difference between the lighter side and the darker side of the Glacier, but you can kind of fold it like that if you're not sure which is which. It also doesn't matter if you decide you like the dark side a little better. So you're just going to center the stamp strip on the corner. It should have 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. And then we're going to put foam tape on it to attach it to the card. Oh, and if I meant to say this, but if you didn't get it earlier, we just scored the card in half. So on the 10-inch side, we scored and folded it 5 inches. On the scoring with the dark side facing you, so the dark side is the outside of the card. Okay, so I'm just going to bend over my garbage here and take off the backing pieces. And I put the lagoon, the teal, the large burst towards the right. And it's going to be the entire width of the card, and I put it pretty much centered over the last 2 strips of squares. And then we can put our sparkles on, and I put a dot of glue in the middle of the big burst. That's my bottle's getting emptier, so I have to squeeze harder, and then I get a bigger blob of glue than I want. Just need a little bit. It's just a little extra security over the adhesive that's on the sparkles, because it's a card and gonna probably be going through the mail, or at least get handled more. So I put another tiny drop of glue in the middle of the yellow burst, and another one in the middle of the outline of the glacier or the light aqua burst. And then I'm going to put a sparkle on each of those glue drops, and it does take a few minutes for that glue to dry, so you have time to put all 3 drops on and then put your sparkle on. But you could do one at a time if you prefer. Sometimes if I'm not sure exactly where I'm doing it, I'll do one at a time so I can audition where I want them. And that's it. That's our card. I'm just going to give you a minute if you need a minute to catch up. I'll clean up my tools here so I can hopefully find them when I need them on the next card. And that's the only card we're going to use the corner rounder on, so you can put that away or put that aside. Of course, it gives you a different look, so there may be another design. Like our next one is going to be the pinwheel card, and I mean that would give it a nice might give it a different look if you round the corners, or maybe just round the outermost corners. I didn't try that, but maybe I will now that I'm thinking of it. Okay. So the next one we're going to do is this pinwheel, and this is a lot of fun. It's a little fiddly, but it's beautiful. So definitely worth it. Let's go ahead and assemble our card first, and then we'll make the pinwheel. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold our cardstock. So we're going to use, this is Lagoon. We are going to put the darker side facing us in our scoreboard. This piece of cardstock is 12 inches long. Excuse me. But we're going to score at 5 inches. So this is going to be one of those asymmetric folds. And this is to get a 5x7 card. But using our 12x12 cardstock. So if you were in the Cosette workshop with me, we did this on a couple of cards in that. And so by scoring a 12-inch long piece of cardstock at 5, you get a flap that's 5 inches, but the back panel of the card is 7 inches. So overall, it's a 5x7 inch card. All right, so we are going to put these panels down in that on the back panel, that 2-inch space that the flap does not cover. So I'm going to put my adhesive on both pieces at once. So I'm putting it on the floral piece because I want the text to show. You could, of course, change your mind. Do it the opposite if you prefer. This is sapphire cardstock. I'm going to put the adhesive on the lighter side so that the darker side is up and showing. So I am going to attach this piece of cardstock centered on that 2-inch space. So I'm using the bottom of that 5-inch flap as my top area, and you can see because of the variation in color. So you can see that that panel is centered right in that space. And then our pattern paper is going to be centered on the sapphire cardstock. And there you go. And then we have a panel of glacier cardstock, and we are going to use the lighter side. So I'm going to put adhesive on the darker side. And this square gets centered on the 5-inch square flap of the top of the card. Excuse me. So this just gets centered on that area. Okay, now I'm just going to set this aside a little bit so I can show you how we are going to create this pinwheel. Okay, so you're going to need a pencil and you're going to need a ruler. Now, this works great if you have a wider ruler, like a quilting ruler. You don't need to, but it's very handy. But first you're going to, now when you draw your lines with your pencil, you have to use a pencil because you want to erase the lines that are showing after we create our pinwheel. And you want to press very lightly because it'll make them easier to erase. See, I can see I didn't erase that one very well. It's better. So the lighter you make it, the easier it is to erase. You just want to make it dark enough so that you can see the line. And we're going to draw a line from one point to the opposite point on the diagonal here. Now you don't have to go quite from corner to corner because you see you don't need quite that far. But it also doesn't hurt to draw it all the way. Maybe even the first time, it's probably better to. And if you do have a quilting ruler and you are familiar with doing 45-degree lines, this is a 45-degree line from corner to corner. So if you see here, I lined it up on the 2 points. The edge is lined up on that 45-degree line. See, so it's kind of a double check to make sure you're right. So I made mine a little darker than I needed because I wanted you to be able to see it. Whoops. Helps if I keep it in the camera. I brought the camera down lower so I have less of a area. Okay, so now we're going to turn it around and we're going to draw another line on from the other between the other 2 points. So again, I am working on my I'm lining up my 45-degree angle. I am making sure that I'm going from point to point. The more accurate you are, the more perfect your pinwheel will look. So see, now you have an X across your square. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is draw a line from center point at the top to center point at the bottom, and center point from one side to the other side. So this this square of paper is 4.5 inches. So the center point is 2.25. That's why I suggested using a quilting ruler, because this is 3 inches wide. I've got that 2.25 inches. I can line it up on 2.25 inches, and I can confirm that that's going right through my center point of my X, and I can draw my line. If you don't have a wider ruler, you can take your ruler, like if I was using my skinny point, I mean, you can just line it up through the center point of your X, and you can use your lines on your ruler, if you have one of these rulers, to line up the top and bottom. You can also just go ahead and measure 2.25 and make a small mark at the bottom, small mark at the top. You can use your mat, if you have a mat, to measure it. There's lots of different ways to measure it, but certainly I find it most easy if I have a ruler that's wide enough, which is why I now have quilting rulers in my paper crafting kit. Figuring out that I could cut paper with my rotary cutter and use quilting rulers to measure are probably the best thing about being both a paper crafter and a quilter, that I figured out that connection between the tools. So I went ahead and drew my line. Now, I didn't get it quite centered, so I am going to fix that. There we go. Now I'm going to turn around and I'm going to do the same thing. So in all, we're going to have 4 lines across our piece of cardstock here. And you have from top to bottom, left to right, and the 2 diagonals. Okay, so just like the last card, I am going to line up my pieces in order so that I can keep working as I go. You know, I'm going to put adhesive on the back on each of them. I'm going to have them all lined up and ready to go so I can just pick up piece after piece. So I'm going to start at the top. Now, your pieces are in order, but they're in order backwards. So I'm going to start with my yellow presents paper, and then I'm going to go to the bottom of my stack, and I'm going to get my diamonds, my stripes, my fireworks, my blue presents, my plaid, which is my favorite, by the way, my teal, and my happy birthday message. Okay, so these are the orders I want my papers to be in, going counterclockwise around the pinwheel. And I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive on the back of each of them. and then keep them turned over so the adhesive is up, but I'm going to keep them in the same order. So I'm just going to put this aside so I don't keep hitting it. And I'm going to put adhesive on all 4 edges of each of my pieces. This roll of adhesive is not playing friendly. Keeps wrapping around the other roller. It's better. So, yep, I turned it over. Put my adhesive on and then put it back in line. This one doesn't matter as much, the orientation of a directional print, but you can worry about that if you are concerned about it. You can worry about that as you put the pieces down. They want to stick, once they have the adhesive on it, they want to stick to everything. Surprise, surprise. So give yourself a little bit of space between them if you've got the room. This one is really the only one that's directional. And I didn't put it up so it's facing upright. So it depends if that's going to bother you or not. I know people it would bother, and I know people it would not. So okay, so I gave you all this piece. You're probably like, what is this? So this is a piece of, I call it sticker backing paper. It's it says Suang on the front. That's the company, the manufacturer. But on the back, it's got that glossy. And this was tape backing from wide tape. And I cut everybody a piece. And your piece might be a little different shaped. You just need a little bit. You don't have to use this if you are coordinated, but I figured I'd give everybody a piece to help them out at least the first time you make the card. You can keep it and use it. Later, we're going to be using that adhesive, those adhesive sheets that Close to My Heart makes. That backing paper will work as well. I just hadn't saved any of it, so I gave you this. Usually if I have some big pieces of this that I take off of a project, I will keep a few pieces. So in an instance such as this, when I want a piece, I'll keep it in a folder so I can get some. So we are going to start at the 12 o'clock position and our pinwheel. So the top corner, so that yellow birthday paper. That's our beginning of our stack here. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to line up my sticker backing paper in the top left quadrant of my cardstock. And I never told you that we were using the darker side of the yellow, but I mean, it is such a subtle difference. It doesn't really matter. And I do apologize for that though. Okay, so I am going to put this line up the 2 edges on those 2 lines. And the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want my square to stick on this side yet. Because as you see, we're going to be putting each next square we add is actually going to go underneath the previous square. So we don't want to stick it all the way down. We only want to stick this square down on the right side. So I am going to, and you can move this over a little so you can actually see that vertical line. And you're going to put the point of your first square into the very point of the center of your drawn pinwheel. And you may have to maneuver a little. The one edge is going to be right on that vertical line, and the top point will also be on the vertical line up here. So you've got your 2 points on the vertical line nestled right into the center of your star and right along the edge here. And see, I am pressing down on the right side of this square, but the left side is attached to the sticker paper, so it is not adhered to your background. Does that make sense? Now, as we go along, you can keep moving this forward if that helps you. I found that I really just needed it for the first piece to get going. And then it was just something else to worry about it. So I kind of moved it out of the way. So what I did was, I'm going to turn this because it's a little easier, but I'm going to move this aside. And I'm going to take my next piece, which is the diamonds. And I'm going to lift this side here. I am going to slide my diamond square underneath. Again, the point should be in the center. Every time we put down a square, the point should be in the center. You're going to line up the bottom edge of the square. Yeah, it's some adhesive overhang there. With the bottom edge of the thing, but don't press it down yet. I pressed it down to get rid of that adhesive, and I didn't follow my own rule there. See, if you were gonna move this forward, let me show you that in case you wanted to. You're always going to line up with the next line. So you would have that there. If I take that out so you can see, it's actually going to square up with the first square we put down. But like I said, it just kind of gets in my way. So I'm going to put the corner down. I'm going to line it up with that line, but I'm not going to press down yet. I'm going to worry more about that corner, this corner here lining up with my diagonal line. And if we could see it, this edge would line up with the vertical line, but we can't see it because it's under that square. But once we see those other points and edges are lined up, we can go ahead and press down a little bit on that what would be the right edge of the square, what's underneath the first square. And then we're going to keep our finger there to lift the left edge to put our next piece down. So we're going to put our left edge again, our next square, it's going to be lined up in the center of your drawn lines. And the top will be with the vertical line, the top point. It's lined up with that vertical line. And if we were going to press this down, you could see that this edge is lined up with the diagonal line. But we're not pressing it down yet because the next piece is going to slide under. Get our next square. See, this is why we want the adhesive on before we start, because we want to keep lifting this and we don't want to futz around with putting adhesive on each piece as we go. So we turn our paper. I always find it easier to turn as I go. So I'm always kind of working at the top of the paper. I'm going to slide my next square under the previous square. I'm going to line it up, the corner right in the center. I'm going to see, like when I press it down, that's going to line up with the vertical line. But I'm not going to press it down yet. I'm going to line up the outside corner with the drawn line. We are on the diagonal this time. And I can go ahead and press down the previous square. Next corner, in the center, every piece lines up in the center. It'll line up with the next line that is showing. Don't press it down. Line up the outside corner with the pencil line. And press down the previous square. Once you get a rhythm going, I think it's pretty easy. And it is easy to see the next square it gets lined up with, I think, because it's the next line that has no pieces on it until we get the end. So we're going to slide this under the previous square, line up our corners, the center point, line up our outside corner with the draw line. Oops, it's on the diagonal line. And I can press down on that side, keeping the outer edge open. Okay, so now this next one, our 7th, is going to, again, it's going to go into the center, but you see it's actually going to line up with that first square. But don't press it down yet because we still have one more to put on. You want to line up that center point. You want to line up the outside corner with your pencil line. It's not much of a line because I cut it to perfectly, this background piece to perfectly fit. But there's a little bit there. Press down that side. And now we have come to our final piece. And if you want it to be upright, if you're going to use your square, your yellow square at the top, then you can figure, then if you hold it with the point, the yellow point at the top, that's upright. So you can put your text in upright. But I'm going to line up my center. Now you can see that this line, it's actually making a line here all the way down, a straight line. But you still have this pencil line in the on the diagonal in the corner to line up your outside corner with. And now, once they're all lined up, then you can go ahead and press down and you can burnish really well. And then you have your 8-piece pinwheel. And now we're going to erase the pencil lines that extend past our pattern paper. Isn't that fun? Hopefully it wasn't too stressful for you. And maybe it was. Maybe you'll try it again. All these squares, again, are 1.5 inches. So, I mean, you could try different sizes too. You can go really tiny. You can go really big. Probably couldn't go really big because then you need a really big background piece. But I think it's a fun technique, and hopefully you will enjoy doing it over again. Just making sure I have all my lines erased. And this is why you want to draw your lines as lightly as possible. And then we're going to put adhesive on the back of this and just put it on the top of our card. And it's going to get centered in the middle of the glacier panel. Oops, I missed one of my pencil marks. And you can save this piece to use again if you want to try the card again or the technique. And then we're going to add sparkles. We're going to add, I just thought the center needed a sparkle. So we're going to put one right in the center of our pinwheel. And then we're going to put 3 down on this panel. So what I did, about 1/4 inch in from the yellow edge, centered top to bottom. And then I put another dot about 3/8 of an inch down from that and 3/8 of an inch up from that. So I have a line here, but it's not, there's a little more space in the top, at the top and the bottom than between the sparkles. Okay, so put one in the middle. And then put my 3 down here. And if you don't get them down quite right in the spot, that liquid glue does help you. It stays wet for a minute or two. So you can slide it around a little to get it in the right spot. You just might have to clean up a smear of the liquid glue, but it dries clear, so it's usually okay. Okay, so I think it looks a lot more difficult than it is. Hopefully you feel the same way. Maybe you'll feel the same way after you do a couple of them. Oh, good. I'm glad, Cheryl. It's, yeah, I think it would go, well, it would look good, great in any color. Christmas colors would look fun. And I mean, if you want to put it on a square card, you could put it on a square card too. Just remember that a square envelope takes more postage. But you could always put a square card into a rectangular envelope, which is what I do to avoid the excess postage. Because I pay enough postage to the post office. Okay, we are going to work on this one next. And we're going to do the same thing in terms of folding the card on this one. This is a 12-inch strip, 5 inches wide. We're going to score at 5 inches to make our 5x7 card. We have the darker side up facing us. The darker side is going to be on the outside of the card. So score at 5 inches. And fold and burnish. And I always like to burnish on the back side. That's why I brought it over. It seems like you might bring the shorter side open, but I just like to do the back side. Just a habit I have. Okay, and so we're gonna go ahead and put some of these pieces on the card first. So again, we have our panels to go in our 2-inch spacing at the bottom of the card. The first one is a sapphire piece of cardstock. We're going to have the darker side showing. So we're going to put our adhesive on the lighter side, and we're going to center that into our 2-inch, it's actually 2 inches by 5 inches space, 1/8 inch border all the way around. And then we're going to put our diamond paper on top of that. And again, that'll be centered. So it has a 1/8 inch border all the way around. And then we're going to put our lagoon square, and we're going to use the lighter side facing up this time. So we'll put the adhesive on the darker side. And that will be centered in the top portion of the card, the flap, the 5-inch flap. I turned that around simply because my piece looked a little rectangular. It wasn't perfectly spaced. Not sure why, but it looks better this way. They're both supposed to be square, but you know, sometimes life doesn't make everything perfectly square. Or paper cutters don't, anyway. The person cutting your kit doesn't always. All right, so I'm going to put that aside. And on this one, I decided to try those adhesive sheets. Instead of putting adhesive on each of the squares of paper, which would definitely work, I decided to try to put an adhesive sheet on the background and see if see how that worked. Now you can't use an adhesive sheet on your pinwheel because all the background isn't covered with adhesive. You can't use it on this because again, the whole background isn't covered. You've got those spacing in between, but you can use it on this one. So it's just a different technique. You can try it, see if you like it. Like I said, you can put adhesive on each of the squares. I just thought they just stuck down a little better if we did it this way. Now we are going to do the same thing that we did to start off with our pinwheel in terms of drawing the 4 lines. Now on this piece, this is just a piece of white cardstock. It does not matter. I mean, there's no reason to draw them really dark, but you don't have to erase the excess pencil lines on this one. So, you don't have to worry about drawing them really light. So again, you're going to line up your ruler from corner to corner and draw your line. And I'm not sure what's going on, Judy, but I definitely know. I cut this card for you, so you definitely should have it. I know I cut the pieces. So again, from corner to corner, and then we're going to do our vertical and horizontal lines, although I'm going to draw them both vertically. This piece of paper should be 5 inches square, so the halfway mark is 2.5 inches. Oh, Judy, check your other kit because I sent you two. You asked for an additional kit, so I sent you another kit. Maybe the cards got shuffled and you have 2 of this one in the other kit, and that's why it's not in the kit you're working from. So I'm centering it from top to bottom at 2.5 inches, drawing my line. I'm going to turn around and do the same thing. And so now you should have your star / pinwheel. No, I am not drawing on the shiny piece. I am drawing on the solid white cardstock. We are going to put the adhesive sheet over this. And the lines will come through because it's clear. I'm just going to give you a second to draw those lines in case you need it. In the meantime, I am going to make piles of my squares. You should have 2 matching squares of 4 different papers. So 2 of each. And what you are going to do is, just so we're all prepped and ready to go, on your 2 pieces of paper that are the sapphire blue with the dots on it, you're going to cut on one diagonal and get 2 triangles. So I'm lining up my ruler on 2 points, 2 opposite points. And I don't want to use this knife because it's got a bunch of glue on it. I got to change that blade. I'm going to use my rotary cutter. Now you can do, if you're good at lining up in your paper cutter, you can do that. If you're good at cutting a straight line with your scissors, you can do that. Although that makes me a little nervous because I know I'm not good enough to get a straight line. I prefer my ruler and a cutter, but you are welcome to try whatever you like. So we're going to make 2 triangles there, and we're going to do the same thing on the other piece. And then we're going to do the same thing on the 2, the light blue, the glacier birthday paper. We're going to line up our ruler from corner to opposite corner. And go ahead and cut and get 2 triangles. And then we're going to do that again on the other piece and get 2 more triangles. Whoops. So now your quilt pieces are all prepped. Hopefully you drew your lines on here, and we're going to put our adhesive. Now, our adhesive sheet is slightly smaller than our cardstock. So you're just going to try to center it. It is bigger than what we need. So we are going to cut it down. But try to center it as much as possible. And you're going to take one side off of your adhesive sheet. It doesn't matter which side you get, because eventually you're going to take off both. So you're going to put this on, and you see this side is shiny. This is what I was talking about. If you want to save this to use on pinwheel cards in the future, this is a nice size piece. You might, it could be useful at times. Like if you put adhesive on something you're not ready to have adhesive on, you can stick it to that and then put it aside and then get it off when you're ready. So it's handy to have a few of those around. So I am putting my sticky side onto my white cardstock with the drawn lines, and I'm centering it as best as possible. And I'm going to burnish it down really well, because not only does this give you a good stick, but when you go to take off the other side of the backing paper, it's easier to take off if it's attached really well to your cardstock. Now you should, well, it depends on what side you took off. If you took the thicker side off first, which I did, you should be able to see your lines right through that adhesive paper. If you had the other side off first, you might not see it quite as well, but you will. All right, so I'm going to take off this other side here, and now this is totally sticky, so don't put your fingers in it. But I don't know if you can see the shine. Not really. Maybe a little bit. You can see the light glowing off of it. But see, you can see your lines right through the paper. Now, just warning you, the downside to doing this with the adhesive sheet is that once you get that piece of paper down, it's down. So you want to make sure that it is in the right spot before you get too close, because the closer you get, it'll act like a magnet. I'm actually going to put the shiny side of my adhesive paper back down on the bottom half, because that gives me, I don't have to worry about getting my fingers in it. So it'll help me when I put my first piece on. And the first piece I'm going to put on is the fireworks. It's the white background with the little circles and stars and things. To me, it looks like fireworks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up just like I did that first piece of the pinwheel. I'm going to tuck that corner right into the corner of the center of my pencil lines. This time I'm going to go ahead and put the full piece down. I do not need to keep a piece up. And then when I do that, not only will that bottom corner be lined up in the center of your pencil lines, your outside corner will be at the top of your pencil line there. So see, I've got point in the center, point on the pencil line, 2 edges along the 2 pencil lines. Now, I'm going to take this piece off. I'm going to kind of put it on the diagonal. You do not have to keep doing this. This is just to prevent accidents and get your finger getting in the sticky. Instead of okay, so there's two schools of thought here. You can go ahead and put the we're going to do that. Sorry. I'll tell you in a minute. I'm going to put this back over the square we just put on. I'm going to take the matching paper that the one we just put on. I'm going to put that in the center of my drawn lines. And I just noticed that I did not do a very good job at drawing the vertical lines. So my point is not quite on the vertical line, and that's okay with me because I was off a little bit. I don't know if you can even see that. But so I have got the two pieces, either top, bottom, left, right, point to point. And if you want to protect one side, you can put that down again. You're going to take your stripes and you're going to put that square, and this time it's going to fit right in between you're going to put that point right in there, and it's going to fit right in between your previous two pieces. And you're going to go ahead and put the other one opposite it. Now, when I put this in, I made sure my stripes were going the same direction. You don't have to. You can decide you want them. In fact, I'm going to put it the opposite direction so then you can see the two differences, and then you can decide which way you like better. So you see my stripes are going different directions. And this one, I mean, you can barely see that one with the flowers over it, but I did put the stripes going the same direction. So it's whatever you prefer. And you have a perfect square here on your cardstock with adhesive on it. The other advantage to having your cardstock slightly bigger than your adhesive sheet is that you have a little bit of border here to grab onto to hold. Not that you need to keep picking it up like this, but. Okay, so now we're going to put our triangles on. And it doesn't matter which direction, which paper you pick first. But I'm going to do the blue with the dots. I have my fireworks top and bottom. And I'm going to put my first one on so that the edge lines up with the edge of the square. The point of the triangle on the left side lines up with your pencil line, and the edge of this edge of the square. Your other point meets the points of these two, and the edge lines up right with that drawn line. And then I'm going to put the other the other triangle on the other side. So we're just lining up the points and the lines. And we're going to keep going around. This time I'm going to do the glacier paper, and it should fit in the triangle. It should fit right into that spot. It's like doing a puzzle. And I'm going to do another triangle of the same color, and I'm going to fit it on the other side. And I'm going to line up my points. I'm going to line up my edge with the pencil line, the edge with the edge of the square. And we're going to just keep working our way around. So now we're going to use that dark blue again. So see, the dark blue is opposite each other, top and bottom, and then the glacier is opposite left and right. So this one fits right into that triangle we left. And the last one fits against the line and the edge. And then on our last edge, which we're going to use that glacier paper, we left those two triangles right there that they should fit right into that spot, or those spots. And you can go ahead and burnish them down. Now you are going to still have some adhesive around the edge there, so be careful. Don't get stuck in it. There's your quilt. And now we can trim this down. And I am going to grab my little paper cutter here. Hopefully not knock everything out. And you can go ahead. You could also do this with a ruler and a rotary cutter or a craft knife. I'm going to stick it in. It depends on which tool helps you see best. I stuck it right in my paper cutter. I can see where that line cuts. I cut the excess off. And that, because it has adhesive on it, it will stick to your paper cutter a little. So make sure you remove your excess piece here before you make your next cut. It'll make your next cut cleaner if there isn't anything blocking the way. So you're going to stick it back in your paper cutter. Your square should be about 4 1/4 inches. So you can see when I stick it in here on the edge, the other edge is at 4 1/4. So that kind of gives you a measurement to shoot for. And I'm going to go all the way around, cut off my excess. I'll show you on my last cut here how I would do it with my ruler and craft knife or rotary cutter, just so you can see. And I would just line it up one line of the ruler against the bottom of the square, making sure I'm right on the edge of my pattern paper, and trim that off. And I have my square. And now we're going to put this onto our card. So I'm just going to put adhesive on the back. Now, like I said, if you're a little, if you find you had a little trouble with the adhesive sheet, it was too much adhesive for you to worry about getting it in the perfect spot. If you want to move it around a little, you could just try to, you could just, put your adhesive on the back of each square or each triangle like we did on the other cards. I just wanted to try a different method to see which one you liked better. And this is going to get centered in your square on top. Burnish it down. And then we have our stamped image. So see, I made it look like a little flower. Flowers growing in our, well, not growing, but flowers in the base. We've got a piece of our honey butter yellow cardstock. We are going to put the darker side facing up. So put your adhesive on the lighter side. These are both going to get attached flat to your card. So you can go ahead and put adhesive on the back of each of these. And what I did was, before I put it down, I just kind of held it like this and attached the flower panel to the yellow. I've got an eighth inch border. This might be easier if you didn't have your adhesive on the yellow one first, or see, save your piece, put the yellow one down, put your flowers on top of it. I was starting to say you have an 1/8 inch border at the top, bottom, and right. And see, it's just sticking on the back of your adhesive sheet, so it comes back up. And now you can pick it up at the start, pick it up from that and put it on the card. I have it about 1/2 inch from the left edge of the quilt as it lined up with the bottom edge of the quilt. That's my spacing. You can put it where you like it. I wanted to show my point in the middle. If your point isn't perfect, you might want to cover it up. That's fine too. And then we can put our sparkles in it. I don't have enough sparkles in my kit, so I hope I gave you guys all enough sparkles. And if I didn't, please let me know and I'll get you some more sparkles. I'm going to put a dot of glue in the middle of the light blue, it's glacier circle, in the middle of the yellow swirly, and then just down here, because an odd number always looks better, right down to the left of the mouth of the vase. I don't know if I counted these or what. Did I think we only had 3 cards? I never know. And there we go. All right, so we have one more card to go. We're back to Sapphire cardstock. This is another standard 5x7 card, or actually, look, yes, it is. So our cardstock is 10x7. So we're going to put the 10-inch side in our scoreboard. And we're going to put the dark side facing us. You know, I really do like the style of this score, but it's too short. I really need somebody to design one that's an inch or two longer so it sticks up past the other jewels in my mug. All right, so 10-inch side at the top, dark side facing you. Score at 5 inches. And fold and burnish. We are going to go ahead and put let's not put that down yet, and I'll explain why later. Just put that aside. We are going to use a glacier background. Now, on this card, it's going to be similar to what we did on the last card. There were 3 sparkles on the first card. There were 4 sparkles on the second card, which is the pinwheel. And then there were 3 on the third card. And then there's supposed to be 3 on the last card. And I suspect I miscounted on everybody if my kit was wrong, but just let me know if you need some more. Okay, so what I was saying was it's going to be similar to what we were doing on the last card in terms of placing the squares next to each other. However, we cannot use adhesive on this one, an adhesive sheet, because see, these triangles, we are not putting a triangle in those. We are using the beautiful color of the cardstock as the background. So we are going to have to put adhesive on each individual squares. But first we are going to draw our lines. And on this sheet, we are actually going to just draw 2. We're going to draw 1 horizontal and 1 vertical. So this this piece of cardstock is 4 1/4 inches tall. So that's 2 1/8 is the middle. So I'm going to use my ruler to measure 2 1/8. And I'm going to draw my pencil line. And this one doesn't matter so much how dark you draw it, because again, it's not going to show. The other one, there will be some that show at the top and the bottom. So you want to make sure you're a little lighter on this vertical line. The horizontal line will not show though. Okay, so your piece of cardstock should be 6 3/8. So the middle of it is actually 3 3/16, but you don't have 3/16 on your ruler. So I'm marking just right on the line I just drew. What it really is 3 1/8, and halfway between that, I'm using the wrong line. No, I'm not. 3 1/8 and halfway between the 1/8 and the quarter line. That's your center point. So see, I made my, I know you can barely see it, but I made my dot there. Actually, I can make it darker for you so it's not gonna, so that's 3 1/8 plus halfway between the 1/8 and the quarter, which is 3 16, 3 3/16. I know it's a pain in the butt. I'm sorry about that. When you start working on the diagonal, your measurements can get a little weird. So I marked that there, and I'm going to draw a line right through my mark. Make sure it's nice and straight. If you don't have one of these quilting rulers where you can line up the bottom and top lines, you can also make that mark at the top and the bottom and the center, and then line them all up with your ruler to draw that line. You also have a little fudge room. So if you're not quite centered, if you're close, that's good. Okay, so let's make our piles of our pattern paper squares. So you should have 3 plaid. You should have 3 of the fireworks. And you should have 3 of the blue with the dots. You should also have a rectangle of sapphire and your stamped flowers. Okay, we are going to take only one of our plaid, and we're going to cut this on the diagonal just like we did on the previous card. So we can have 2 triangles. So line up on your points, cut, and you've got 2 triangles. We are going to do the same with one of our fireworks squares. You know, it's funny, I didn't turn my light on this time. And the lighting, I think, is really good. It's just the what's left of the sunlight coming in. And I think it looks really good on camera. But it is starting to get dark in here. But I don't want to mess it up now. Okay, I can still see. It's fine. Just want you guys to be able to see. So we've got 2 triangles of the fireworks. And that's all those are the only triangles we need. Everything else stays a square. Okay. So, we're going to go ahead and put adhesive on our 3 blue squares with the dots. We are going to go ahead and put our adhesive on all 4 sides of the square and keep the adhesive side up in front of us. Now, we could go ahead and put adhesive on all of our squares, but I'll do it just since there's a bunch of them, I'll just do a couple pieces at a time here. So we're going to take one of our squares with the dots. We are going to put it right smack in the middle of our cardstock. So that means we are going to line up the 4 points of the square with our 4 lines here. Left, right, top, and bottom. All of the points should line up with all of the lines. Now we're going to put one to the right of it And we only have two line, the horizontal line in this case, but your 2 points should line up. You're going to line up point to point, and on the other side, point to line. And then you're going to put one on the other side. And you're going to do point to point and point to line. And depending on how well you centered your center line, see, like this one, my point is right on the edge of the cardstock. This one, there's a little bit of space. If you were perfectly centered, it'd be the same amount of little tiny space. It's okay because we're going to trim the edge just like we did on the last card. So it's perfect. I just air quoted the word perfect, if you were wondering. Okay, so now we're going to put, let's go ahead and put our adhesive on all of the rest of the squares. So you should have 2 of the fireworks. Just the squares, not the triangles yet. And then you should have also 2 of the plaid. So I'm going to turn mine over because this one is going to be this square is going to be covered a lot up with the flowers in the vase, and this one is showing, and that one's got more dots. So I like the fact that more dots are showing. So I'm going to put that on the right side for myself. And I'm going to take one of my squares that has the plaid print on it, and I am putting it at the top above my dotted squares in the right, in the triangle created on the right side. So my edges should fit right in there, just like they did on the last one. Just nestles right in there. And now I'm going to pick up one of the squares that have the fireworks on it. And again, I'm going to put it above the squares on the left-hand side next to that plaid. And it should fit right in there. And you'll see the plaid and the fireworks now are point to point, and all our edges match up. We're going to turn it around and do the same thing. The plaid is going to go on the right. So the same pattern is not top to bottom or in a vertical line. It is kind of diagonally across. And then I'm going to put the fireworks in the left triangle. And your points of these squares that you just put in should line up with the top of your cardstock. Now, if you create another one of these in the future and you're having trouble with those points lining up with the edge, You can cut a bigger piece of cardstock and then trim it down. So that is an option. If for some reason they're not lining up right. If you're slightly off with your pencil line or whatever. Okay, so now let's put the adhesive on our triangles. Again, the plaid side and the fireworks sides are the ones showing. I'm going to put a line of adhesive on all 4 edges. These triangles, yes, are a little trickier. You want to make sure you get some adhesive on the point. For me, that means I roll over that edge and it's the adhesive is overhanging the edge a little bit, which is why I'm going like this, because I'm cleaning up the edges. Another option for this would be liquid glue. If you give you a little more flexibility into getting into the points. Not too much though, because you don't want it squeezing out. The other thing you can do is if you like having full adhesive on the back, you can cut your squares, or you can put your piece of cardstock, the size of cardstock you're going to cut, you can put an adhesive sheet on the back of it. Keep the covering on one side. Be careful because it is slippery when you have the adhesive sheet on the back. And you can cut all your squares and triangles with the adhesive on, and then you would just, it would be like a sticker, and then you would peel the backing off each piece as you put it on. It's always a question when you're doing it, like, was it easier? Was it really easier to put adhesive on every sheet? Was it easier to make the whole thing into a sticker? Which is faster, which is more efficient? I think they're about the same. It's just whatever you prefer. Okay. So these 4 triangles are going to go on the edges of our panel here. I'm going to put the plaid on first because I have it in my hand. So what I'm going to do is, again, I want to be kind of on the diagonal from the other plaid. I don't want it next to it. I wouldn't put it here next to it. I want it on the diagonal so it's actually next to the fireworks. And you've got plaid, fireworks, plaid. You're going to line up the corner, the point rather, with the point of the blue and the point of the fireworks. The edge should line up right with the blue square. And then we're going to put one of the fireworks ones above it. So again, we got fireworks, plaid, fireworks. And hopefully all your points, all your edges line up. And we're going to turn around and do the same thing on the other side. Put a plaid on the bottom next to the fireworks. And put the fireworks on top next to the plaid. And there you go. Now, like I said, this side I've got a little space, so we're going to trim that off. Get a little extra cardstock there. This side, it's kind of flush, although that triangle is hanging over. You see a little bit, so I'm going to trim that flush too. This one is a little trickier spacing wise to get just right, but like I said, you would have that little bit of play in the cardstock I cut for you. So you should have at least one side that has space, if not tiny spaces on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and use my ruler. You can use your paper trimmer. I'm going to use my ruler and my rotary cutter again. I'm lining up my ruler with the edge of the triangles so that I'm just cutting off that extra glacier cardstock. Whoops. And I'm flush. And on this other side, I'm just cleaning that up a little bit too. My triangle went a little wonky there. I'm going to use my scissors because it was too close to cut with my rotary cutter. When I do that, when I cut with my scissors like that, I turn it upside down because I can see that overhang and it makes it easier to cut when it's that tiny little sliver. All right, and now we can erase our pencil lines. And we have our quilt. All right, so the reason I didn't have you cut your yellow panel, honey butter, was that in case you had to square it up a little extra, you can hold your piece up to the panel and you can make sure, oh, my, okay, my spacing is good. It's what it should be. If it was like really wide in one place and it looked a little awkward, you could trim this panel up, but this looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and attach it right in the center. So I'm going to put adhesive on the back of my quilted piece and center it on the darker side of the yellow. And I am going to then put adhesive on my yellow. And I'm going to center it on my sapphire card. Now in this case, it's not going to be quite equal all the way around. There's going to be a little less space on the two sides than there are at the top and bottom. So you're going to center it top to bottom and you're going to center it left to right. And if you could see, this spacing up here at the top is just a little wider than this spacing on the side. And that's simply because of, the measurements of the squares and, this, it's a little wider, but I wanted to keep the 5x7 card size. I didn't want to trim it down a little. I figured it looks close enough. It looks good. It doesn't always have to be the same size. That's just our natural inclination for symmetry. Okay, and so now we're going to put our flower panel on. And unlike the other one, I'm going to use some foam tape on this. So I'm only going to put my double-sided adhesive on the stamped white panel. And I'm going to put it on the sapphire panel and I'm going to center it. It's going to go onto the darker side of the blue. And then I am going to put foam tape on the back of this piece. If you'd rather have it flat, you can put it on flat. Why is one flat and one raised? I don't know. It was just what I felt like doing when I created the cards. Okay, I'm just going to put this, bend over my garbage and take the backing papers off. And I'm going to put it on the left side of my card. I'm going to center it top to bottom. And I'm putting it about 3/4 of an inch from the left edge of the quilt. Well, actually, well, I already put it down, but on the sample, see, I had the blue line lining up with the point of the blue square there, the center blue square. This one, it's over just a little bit. It doesn't matter, wherever you like it. And then if you still have sparkles, reaching into my supply, you can add your sparkles to this card too. So I'm putting a dot of blue in the center of the blue flower, one in the center of the yellow flower, and then one kind of down here to the right of the branch. Okay, and that is that card. I hope you followed all my instructions okay. If anything was unclear, you have any questions, just let me know. The video will stay up for you to watch again if you need to. I know there was a lot of instructions being thrown your way. And then you also have the written instructions that I sent you. So, let me show you the samples from an upcoming card class. I want to say it's my next one because I'm going to try to do one on, what is the date now? This one is going to be on August 1st. But I need to know by July 2nd if you want to take it so I can order the supplies. But I'm also going to try to do where did it go? A workshop on the 18th. Those are both Tuesdays, July 18th. It's just that I will do one that hopefully I will not have to order supplies for. So this one is called Shells and Friends, because the greetings are kind of friendship related. This one says some of our best times haven't even happened yet. This one says it's hard to find a friend that is so amazing in every way. My advice is that you don't lose me. But if you wanted to just keep it sweet, you could cut that line off. This one, I'm going to do a little bit of easy, quick watercoloring on that one. This one, friends are like seashells. You pick them up along the way. And this one that says, why am I sending you this card? And inside it says, I knew a minute ago. So we got some sweet, some funny there. and beautiful sea themed colors there. So if you want to take that class, let me know. I also sent out an email about it, but sorry, I'm hesitating because I set it up to send last night and I don't remember getting it in my own inbox this morning. So I'm wondering if it really sent. I will have to check on that. Um, in the meantime, thanks so much for joining me for the quilt cards. Hope you like them a lot. If you get a chance, give me a thumbs up in the stream. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks and have a good rest of your night.